the kids are back in school, and for a minute, it seemed like a huge debate. Where are we going to get the school fees? We saw the parents complaining on social media. These have been difficult times for everybody, but somehow the universe is a strange place where things can somehow just work out. If only barely, but they do. The idea is, I guess, you just got to keep moving forward and eventually the pieces will fall into place.
Auntie, this is what Oprah once said, that there is nothing that has happened to you or is going to happen to you that has not happened before and that will not end. So basically, the sun moves, the sun shines again.
Yeah. But just keep moving. As long as you keep moving, you're going to come much closer to the solution to your problems that you are seeking. Well, speaking of problems, so the school fees, big issue here. And now the Speaker of Parliament, Anita has called for the establishment of a policy to harmonize school fees in Uganda. Harmonize. What does that mean? Well, during the plenary session that took place on Tuesday, 7th of March, the Speaker expressed concern about the significant variations in school fees charged by different institutions, leading to hardships for parents and students. Among said that the current lack of regulation has resulted in schools setting their fees arbitrarily, leading to significant disparities across the education sector beyond what parents can afford. And she's called for an urgent policy to harmonize school fees and to promote access to education for all. I do find this to be a strange proposition. Because,
why is it strange?
Well, our education system is a mixed one. We've got public schools, we've got private schools.
That's true.
And private schools, in my opinion, are free to set whatever structure for school fees that they wish. They can charge whatever they want for as long as they're able to find willing customers. Like if you as a parent look at the school brochure and say, okay, there's horse riding, there's swimming, there's gymnastics, there's soccer, they have a science lab, they have an engineering lab. I would like my child to go to this school, and then at the end it says, okay, well, it's $5,000 a semester. If you can pay it, you pay it. And if you can't, go to your level. Go to a school that is more affordable.
You see, the challenge is that our education sector was privatized a long time ago, and public schools, majority of them are not really good. And I'm putting that lightly. So if you want your child to have a semblance of a good education, the schools that you may find yourself taking these kids to are the schools that are expensive. Now, the things you mentioned could be like separate programs from the usual studying. If you want your child to be part of the Scout Club, you can pay a separate fee. But then let's talk about the school fees alone before you add these other things, because you have a right to choose to stay out of them or to be part of them. Schools apparently, according to something the Daily Monitor wrote, apparently some schools are charging as much as 5 million shillings. And what are they teaching? They're not teaching an international curriculum.
Yeah. But then
they're teaching UNEB-based curriculums.
Be that as it may, I feel like it still rests with the parent.
It does.
To decide whether or not to send their child to that school.
I hear you, but did you hear me when I said that our education system was privatized? Because even the traditional schools are not really public schools. The likes of King's College, the likes of St. Mary's Chisubi, they are more of private schools than government schools. So if there were government schools that could actually take in students at a good amount of money, no one would be making this kind of request.
Wait. So what would qualify as a public school, government school to you?
So right now, most government schools are the UPE schools. The ones that I don't know, the Ugandan Ivy League schools like King's College, like Mount St. Mary's Namagunga, Gayaza High School, are normally referred to as, they are first of all church-based schools, majority of them, and maybe government-aided, like government gives them money here and there, but ideally, they're not entirely owned by the government. They are private institutions. So what the speaker is saying is maybe we need a price ceiling. You can charge fees up to this amount of money, because honestly, why should you charge 5 million for a normal curriculum that was developed by the Uganda National Curriculum Development Center? And it's not that you're teaching something different from like the international schools are doing.
I think it's for, and you raise a very good point. I do think ultimately parents need to stage a revolt.
Yes.
Parents need to shake up the system, but I feel like either they are too busy or too preoccupied or just they don't care enough to sit down as a community of parents and say, what do we think we can do about this situation? Because you're right. If the school is simply going to teach a curriculum that is
developed by the government,
why would it be so difficult for parents to get together and devise a system of how tutors can be invited to teach particular subjects and then others to do more extracurricular stuff, like the so-called homeschooling thing, right? But because we have cast it in such a negative light, it's not really taken off. And so people would, and also due to issues related to pride and status seeking, everyone wants their kid to be sent to the prestigious school. I don't know. You have kids in school. Is that a point of bragging between your friends?
It's not
my child is in Buddha. My child is in Namagunga.
There are people.
My child is in
there are people.
Rainbow.
And if your child is in, I saw a lady bragging on Facebook the other day about her child being in Rainbow, and she was telling someone, "Why do you bother with such schools?" So there is this lady who had taken her child to a boarding school, and the child was not really, transitioning well. And when the mother posted about it, this person in the comment section was like, "Why don't you just take him to Rainbow? They teach them well." I mean, how many Ugandans can afford? I think those schools are like $5,000 to $10,000 a term.
I feel like, and the time has come for us to understand that we do have the tools to think of new ways of educating.
Maybe you start
our children, and I do intend to start.
But you see, Fatboy, it's not really because people don't want to homeschool their children. Also, you need to understand that homeschooling is not for everyone, and I'm not talking about parents. There are children who will thrive more in an academic setting where there are many other children, and then there are those that will actually thrive more when they're being taught by one-on-one by a parent or a tutor that comes at home.
So homeschooling need not necessarily be one-on-one. Like I mentioned, a community of parents. So let's say me.
But for us who don't even know our neighbors.
You see, but you're just coming up with more and more excuses.
No, they're not excuses. They are realities that are happening.
So whose fault is it that you're not friends with your neighbor? Whose fault is it that you're not friends with your neighbor?
Let me ask you a question. Since you seem like the perfect person here, where you stay, how many of your neighbors are actually your friends?
Not many. But you see, in this era of social media, a community need not be physical per se.
If you're going to teach your children, it's going to get physical.
You're a member of several WhatsApp group where people discuss nonsense in some cases. Other cases, it may be useful information. But people are able to create virtual communities.
But they eventually meet.
And they eventually meet. So my point is, so I can be, say, I live in Chihuatule. There could be another parent in Nigeria, another one in Kira, another one in Nalia, and then we sit down and we say, hey, we've got kids the same age, and these school fees are getting ridiculous. How about you see, one of us has a bigger house, we have some space, so you guys can bring your kids to my house. We'll use this room as a study room. We'll invite this teacher or tutor, and then we can all contribute to that. And then, so what we have is, it may resemble a school in some fashion, but not quite. But it's more now in the hands of the parents.
And how much are you paying this tutor? Because the parents who tried homeschooling during the pandemic, most of them broke off. Me, I never tried because teachers were extremely expensive, and majority who also tried and then stopped had the same complaint. So how much are you going to pay this tutor?
That's a good point.
Because you need to look at the logistics of it all.
Very good question. So ideally, if that were the case, I would think of recruiting a parent who may have an educational background and who may have the time to do it. Maybe like, say, somebody's housewife. If one of them is, let's say, a housewife.
And what are the odds of finding such a person and they are willing?
My point, Olive, is that we have to try. You can't just throw your hands up.
You see, when you make a suggestion, you're going to have these questions and you need to answer them. So what are the odds that someone would have such a wife and that they may be willing? And also, what are the odds that someone would want children in their home, other people's children every day in their home to be taught? And like, there is a lot you need to consider before you just say, let's do this.
No, what I'm saying is there are a lot of variables. Therefore, it must begin with, first of all, the will to try, and then the will and the effort made to investigate it and study it and analyze it. Look, if at the end of the day it turns out it's completely unfeasible, sure, pay the exorbitant fees and ship your children off to the expensive schools. But I'm saying, if we're not even trying to look at the alternatives,
Fatboy,
we're selling ourselves short.
You've been telling me about homeschooling for a couple of months now, but you've never come with conclusive evidence of your research. Maybe let's start with you looking into it, looking at the logistics, seeing how it can work. Like, you know how you present a business plan? And then when you have those, then even the listeners will be like, actually, that's something where we can start.
So, and this is why, well, on one hand, I feel like I don't even need to, because it's a personal endeavor. It's for you to do.
But
I don't need to convince you to do something that you may think may help you.
But you're not talking to me alone. You're talking to everyone that is listening, and probably someone else there is actually jumping onto your wagon. They're like, can he give us more information?
Understand what I'm doing. I'm not here to pitch homeschooling. I'm here to pitch the idea that it is a possibility.
But you're more or less pitching it.
So in other words,
the same thing.
In other words, I'm saying there needs to be a concerted effort for all of us to research it and to find answers to all of the important questions that you were asking. But if instead of that, we're just going to sit and wait for a miracle, then we're just going to...
No one is waiting for a miracle.
It sounds like that's what you're doing.
Even asking for the government to put a price ceiling, because the 45 million Ugandans are not going to all homeschool their children. We have jobs to go to. We have children to feed. And most times, you're also going to find that majority of them are not really that educated to carry this on. Because this suggestion works for a certain group of people. Have you thought about the entire country?
No. You see, the thing is, Olive, the best solutions in the world start with oneself. Charity begins at home, as the saying goes.
I don't disagree.
So the thing is, it's like advocating for healthy eating, as I do, wherein someone will send me a message and say, "Hey, give me tips on what to eat or how to lose weight," and then I'll share with them a general picture of what they should do and what they should avoid. And then they'll get back to me and say, no, that's not enough. Give me step by step. Tell me what to cook and eat for breakfast, lunch, and supper every day. And you know what I say to them? I don't have time. I've given you the basic picture. It's up to you to pick it up from there, do your research, and find what works for you. In fact, part of doing the research is part of the journey. And this has been true for me and for others who've succeeded.
But you see, as a media...
And so if you don't want to take my advice and you think I'm withholding that information, what do I lose?
So here's the thing.
I lose nothing.
Here's the thing, and this is
lose.
And this is where you forget the line. You forget that you're not speaking on this radio station just as Fatboy. You're speaking as still a media personnel that people look up to and people want to learn from. And
I'm sorry, I'm speaking as me. I'm just expressing my personal opinion.
And since your opinions are followed by some people, you could become an advocate at this. I'm not saying you're wrong. Please get me right. I'm not saying homeschooling is wrong, but I'm looking at other realities of many Ugandans. And I'm saying if a section of Ugandans can't do what you're suggesting, well, you can give them more information. You can become an advocate. I see you giving many talks these days. It could become something that you do. It can become your forte. But also, I'm representing the other Ugandans that may not consider homeschooling and they still need a solution.
Okay, then.
So that's where the speaker comes in and we say, let's have a price ceiling. Let schools be bound by a certain, I don't know if it's a law, where they may not increase fees to a certain amount.
I personally think it is not going to be feasible. And if it's ever implemented, schools are going to be creative in finding new ways to... Because the ceiling, you say you're going to set a limit to the school fees. What is that for? Tuition? Okay.
For the tuition.
You know how these schools work. They'll find building fund. entertainment
No,
fund.
there is already development fee. There is already these other things.
So they're going to inflate all of that to compensate for any limit to what they're able to charge with
but
tuitions.
still there will still be a limit to inflation, because here is the thing. You don't seem to see anything in my argument, but picture this. A child in P2 or even baby class is paying way more fees than a child at university. So someone wonders, does it mean that Makere is teaching bogus things, that I must pay so much?
Probably.
That I must pay so much. Does it mean Uganda Matters University or Uganda Christian University, all these other universities that we have? Because most of them, the school fees is between 900,000, 1.5, 1.8, 2 million. Maybe courses like law and medicine are more expensive. But what I'm saying is that children in primary school are paying way more money than people at university, and parents are like, this doesn't make sense, and the government is quiet. The Minister of Education is quiet.
Well, if I were you, and now that I'm a parent, well, now no one's gonna say, well, you're not a parent, don't say anything. I do foresee a scenario in which I will explore it. I'm going to start exploring those options now. If I'm able to come up with a feasible and practical plan, that is something that I might share. But as with all plans, it's really not universally applicable.
Yes.
It's a pick and choose. Like, I give my dietary advice. Half the people I tell don't care for it. And they carry on with their lifestyles. Then they have no change. It's on you. It's your life. And it is your children. How you wish to educate them and in what school and at what fee is your business ultimately. But now with the internet, YouTube, and so many other learning tools available, it just boggles my mind why we don't want to think outside the box.
Fatboy, parents tried the online studying during the pandemic, and you're no stranger to data charges in this country.
Come on.
It's
certainly.
Sometimes when I speak to you, I actually realize that you're so removed from reality and that you don't understand what other Ugandans grapple with. That is the sad reality.
Listen, unlimited.
Which unlimited are you talking about that can expire in a day?
Listen to me. Unlimited internet you can get today for 250,000.
And how many? So someone is earning 800,000. They have rent, they have feeding, and they still have to pay that unlimited data, which will not even take you a month.
Then pay 5 million to the school. Why are you arguing with me?
No, what I'm saying is you need to be realistic sometimes, and
so
sometimes
I'm unrealistic.
You are. Seriously.
I'm unrealistic for suggesting to try online.
You're unrealistic saying people should try online, yet they're even struggling to afford what is not online. Because online, you're going to buy material, you're going to buy data.
Here's what I don't understand. So I am unrealistic for just suggesting online access.
You're unrealistic.
For which it'll cost you a couple of 100,000 per month at most. Yeah. An unlimited.
No, I need
if you went, just try going to any of the service providers for, and I think even Airtel I saw released a new very competitive package. But you can get an unlimited bundle of 10 Mbps or 20 Mbps for less than 300,000. Okay, it's not affordable to everyone for sure. But surely it is more affordable than the 5 million you're being asked to pay to these schools.
My question to you is, how long does it stay? And how long
it's unlimited. You pay monthly.
No, I know unlimited. I have internet in my house, and sometimes I will pay what is supposed to stay for a month, and it will stay for 2 weeks. Or
change
even
your provider.
Late. So what I'm trying to say is this. You will pay unlimited. We all know about unlimited, but at the end of the day, the speed and how you consume it can even take you for a week or just a few days. And then you're buying internet again. And these are children that are supposed to be studying every day of the week.
I'm really not understanding it, because if it's unlimited, it doesn't run out. It's more a time issue. It expires after 30 days and you have to renew it.
No, that's not how it works.
Then
Haven't we had issues in office here, because I believe our internet is unlimited and the time for expiration is not yet, but we cannot access the internet.
No, so that's not the issue of it running out. That's usually if the service provider has a problem.
There are times when it is just out.
No?
There are times. Because I have the same service provider as the one we have here
and it goes,
for my internet at home. Yes.
And I'm saying, and I've used this service provider for over 2 years now.
And I have used it for over a year.
And I've never had an issue of, it has run out.
Okay.
What happens is that either it expires and I have to renew it after 30 days, or they have like a general problem or a technical issue, and then they'll communicate to me.
I think you need to check again. But the thing is this, you can pay for an unlimited package, but depending on your consumption, you will run out of data before the 30 days.
Okay, I will
ask
admit
anyone.
I'm asking myself, it's news to me.
No, ask anyone. And more importantly, talk to parents that educated their children during the pandemic online and let them share what their main challenge was as far as online education is concerned.
All right. To me, it still sounds like excuses. And I'll tell you why. Because I have attempted to do things for which people have told me is impossible. I mean, everyone and their mother told me.
I didn't say it is impossible.
I'm just saying, if you had asked anyone whether an online radio was a feasible thing, they'd have all told you, no, forget it, it can never be done. And yet, I said, let's do it, and we did it, and we're still doing it. My point is, even things that may seem insurmountable, if you have the force of will to push, you might succeed.
And here is where you didn't get me right.
Not everyone will succeed.
I didn't say that you're wrong. And of course, I know there are many people that have been homeschooled. I know I'm not a stranger to that. All I said is that, yes, good as it is a suggestion, it cannot be what will work for majority of Ugandans.
I'm not talking about majority of Ugandans.
But we are talking about what the speaker was saying.
I'm talking about
the education system is for the entire country.
Talking about me.
For you like to narrow things down to a certain class of people, and I like to look at...
Because the poor people are going to the UPE schools, right?
No, not everyone is... Poor people are struggling, and they're doing everything humanly possible to take their children to good schools. Some of us don't come from from good families, but our parents did what they could do best so that we could get here, and everyone deserves that opportunity. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I don't think that appealing to the government to intervene is going to do much to help.
It has to do something,
because because if you think our fees is bad, try sending your child to college in the US, where the government didn't. In fact, here's what they did: the government didn't set a ceiling. Instead, they extended loan facilities. So in other words, they ran another Ponzi scheme where students have to borrow money from the state to enroll into college, and then they spend the next 20 to 30 years of their lives paying off the student loan debts.
Even here, we have a loan.
People are paying $300,000 for a 2-year degree.
Even here, the government gives loans to students, but I am not even at college level. If you cannot afford basic education from primary to senior focus, that is regarded basic. If a parent, a Ugandan citizen, can't afford that, then there is a breakup in the system, and that is what needs to be fixed, because people should be in position to afford basic education before we even go to university.
So the difference between me and you is, as you sit here and tell us what you think the government should do, I'm quite familiar with the fact that that's what people do every day. Stand up and talk about what the government should do. For the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years, nothing changes. So what are you going to do? Wait for the government to still do nothing despite your pleas? Or are you going to try and take the matter into your hands and seek a solution? So I am more a hands-on person. And, as applied to education, at least now that I have a daughter, you can bet that I'm going to put in the time to find an optimal educational arrangement. If I have the money to send her to a normal school, I might just do that. But if there are options that I could explore, I think it'll be well worth it to do it.
And that's good for you.
And I'm happy for it to be a solution for me and for those who might care to hear it.
No, that's good for you. Please go ahead and do it.
If it means very little to you,
you see, you're being in your feelings saying that it is very little to me. I've been saying from the beginning, real. I told you, Fatboy, if that's what you want to do, it's okay. That's why I was like, look into it, furnish people that may want it with more information. Maybe you can become its advocate. For instance, the government in Uganda is not really interested in early childhood development, and there is a group of people that came together, the likes of Manuela Molondo and other people, and came up with early childhood development. So some schools are including it now as they teach children, but the government was not interested. So I'm like, that's okay, do it. But I'm also looking at other people that may want to and can still not afford your solution. So what's in it for them? That's when we go back to the government. Want it or not, we have to try.
Keep trying. And the rest of us will be seeking out different solutions that may work for us as our individual selves, or if applicable for others, we might share that information. I think the more everyone tried their own way of exploring new ideas, I feel like we'll all benefit, because then all those ideas get pulled together, and out of that will come something that might work for most people, or maybe not. Or maybe the government will miraculously wake up one day and decide it is time to do the right thing for the people. And in this case, the right thing, that the alleged right thing being advocated for, is some sort of a ceiling on school fees. Will that come to pass? Well, the Speaker of Parliament is pushing it. She is a woman with quite a bit of influence. Let's see. She might have the force of will to make this see the light of day. Remember how she said that she will never allow nyege nyege to take place in Uganda?
And most recently, yesterday, she said we will pass the anti-gay bill at whatever cost.
Well, she's a chest thumper, that she is. But whether or not
I wish she had a better voice.
She's a very big woman, but her voice is very. But let's see if this time around she'll be able to make this happen. We'll keep updating you on any developments of this story.